Most difficult part is to not go too far, just go strange enough.
Yeah.
That's the biggest trap people fall into in these kinds of movies is they go too far.
Yeah.
Many months later.
I may have gone too far in a few places.
Hello everyone and welcome to our cinematic universe.
A conversation between Byron and Gabe where we talk about our favourite films, franchises, what's happened to them, how they've gone uphill, how they've gone downhill, how directors have been fired, how directors have been replaced, how directors have held on to movies longer than maybe they should have. This is a podcast about franchises. It's been 20 years since a certain movie called The Phantom Menace captivated audiences with its exceptional quality of writing, timeless visual effects, brilliant, clear storytelling.
And very amazing characters.
Incredible characters. You forget how good they are, is what you mean?
Yes, that's right.
But now you get to revisit them 20 years later, and boy, is it a joy to revisit them. I feel like Phantom Menace, in so many ways, typifies the kind of movie that Hollywood is still obsessed with making. Big, CG-driven event films. Now, talking about Phantom Menace, we just watched it. I want you to recount the plot to me as best as you can.
So there is some taxes, right?
This is the first point that I wrote down. This is a film about taxation.
Obi-Wan and two Jedi Knights have been sent to deal with these blockades around the planet of Naboo. The two Jedi Knights are attacked with really obvious white poison. They fight some droids.
Yep.
They try to get to the Viceroy. I don't know, Viceroy. I don't know
Who has
why.
the worst security ever, apparently.
I don't know why they just go in there straight. They don't talk about it. They just go there and slack into the door with a lightsaber.
Well, I mean, he did try to poison them, so they're probably just like, excuse me, we came to negotiate. Can we just please sit down? We were really enjoying the tea you gave us. Can we just finish our tea, have a chat? We can clear this all up.
I'm sorry for
They just want to go home.
I'm sorry for the door. I'll pay for it.
I think this movie is much better when viewed through the lens of two guys who really want to go home. They just want this job to be over because they are so emotionless. One thing that I think this movie does well, the one thing I think this movie does really well is bridging the aesthetic of the original trilogy with the new trilogy.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It does well for 20 minutes.
Yes, no,
10 minutes?
Exactly. As soon as they get to the planet,
20 minutes, like 10 minutes?
as soon as they get down to Naboo with the fucking animals, it completely goes out the window.
Then it looks completely different.
And that is also where we are introduced to Jar Jar Binks. Now, I think for the time, this is 2 years before Gollum, Jar Jar is the first CG character that is created using a reference actor on set. I think Jar Jar holds up technically pretty well through the film. I think, in fact, most of the effects of this film, not the next two, of this film hold up much better than I would have thought. Having said that, the way the script is written and the way the character is performed makes him insufferable. And the problem is that he is leading the Jedi for so much of the first half of the movie.
There's one moment where the Jedi attack the droids that are leading the Queen, right?
Yeah.
They just go on and attack them, right?
Oh, and Jar Jar falls.
And then Jar Jar jumps down. He like trips and stuff. Like, whoa, it's kind of funny. But it's like, why is he part of the attack plan?
Yeah, why is he there? Why didn't they just tell him to go hide? I mean, they're out of the water city.
How'd you stay up there?
Just
stay up there. Why don't you have to jump down?
Oh, man, there's so much we could talk about. I mean, one of my biggest problems with this movie is that it's about an occupying force taking over a beautiful city. I mean, this was shot in Italy, I believe, and it's gorgeous. The thing that I find frustrating about this movie is that George Lucas claims to be a student of history. As you said, he modeled a lot of the original trilogy on World War II, even going as far as to use World War II dogfights as a reference. He clearly cares a lot about real history and interpreting that through the language of his Star Wars franchise. Why then, for this movie, is this narrative of an occupying force taking over a city, treated with absolutely no tension. You don't see any of the civilians of the city suffer. You see absolutely nothing to indicate that these people are suffering.
Well, let me stop you right there.
What?
You see some people, like jogging away from the
Okay, Gabe is referring to a wide shot. That's a CG shot flying over the city where you see a group of maybe 10 people at a slight jog.
Yes.
Maybe. If this was about the occupation of Paris, you'd see people starving in the streets. You'd see, like, them going up and begging to the viceroy.
Not if it was directed by George Lucas.
Yeah, but he's done this well before. Like, in A New Hope, you get the sense that the Empire is everywhere. And they're, checking people at checkpoints. There's Star Destroyers flying around. Like, you get the sense that these guys are, like, ruling over the galaxy. And they're kind of a threat. When these guys roll into town, there's no resistance. They just immediately capture the Queen with absolutely no incident.
Even though the Wu people have
weapons.
a fleet, and they have a fleet.
Yeah.
They said the pacifist.
Yeah.
But the Queen has.
They have an army.
Armrest.
Yeah.
She has maybe not an army, but she has plenty.
They have
plenty of fighters.
Yeah.
They can shoot pretty important shots.
They're pretty quick to like join the Jedis and fight back once they've already been occupied.
They have plenty of weapons and stuff, so they didn't even try when they first come in.
They get off Naboo pretty much without incident. There's no tension. Then they fly to where the movie completely stops for a full hour almost on Tatooine.
And we all know that Luke lived in Tatooine.
Yes.
That's where Tatooine is first.
That is where he grew up.
So George Lucas is writing his script, and he thinks, where should Anakin live?
The exact same place.
Yes.
Not only that,
So
in the next film, he goes and meets the people who raised Luke.
yes, we jumped over your favorite scene.
Oh, what's my favorite scene?
The generator that leaked.
Okay, my two
And
favorite scenes.
It's a single shot.
This is okay.
Yep.
You and I have just watched the films of Akira Kurosawa. We have almost finished all of his movies. And by all of his movies, I mean the 20 most famous ones. Now, George Lucas claims to be a massive fan of Kurosawa. I have two scenes in this movie that blow my mind with how badly handled they are. And I love George Lucas. I think he's a genius. I think he has made some of the best movies ever made. Like Indiana Jones, Star Wars, THX, American Graffiti. I think either because of a lack of confidence, a lack of time, or a lack of will to spend money because it's his money he's putting up, there is a shocking unprofessionalism with the way that some of these scenes are handled, including in the movie there's a scene. Qui-Gon Jinn comes out, he says, "We'll need to find a replacement buyer." And Obi-Wan's like, "Yes, Master, I'll wait for your return." And these two actors have this chat. It's like 20 seconds long. There's a lot of 20-second chats between them. There's not a lot of dialogue between the two of them in this film, which, given the fact that Obi-Wan is the one who has to mourn Qui-Gon, is kind of a weird choice. They are so wooden. This scene, more than any other, really speaks to me about what these actors were up against. Because the scene that I like the most of this movie, that we have argued about a lot, is when Jake Lloyd is sitting at the dinner table with Qui-Gon Jinn, and Anakin just calls him out, and he's like, "You're a Jedi, aren't you?" And he's like, "How do you know that?" He's like, "Your laser sword. I saw that. Only Jedis have those." And he said, "What if I killed a Jedi and took it from him?" So Qui-Gon's testing him, and I like that. And Anakin's like, "No one can kill a Jedi." And Qui-Gon's like,
Yeah,
I wish that was so. It's one moment in the entire film where I see an actor of Liam Neeson's caliber acting against an actor who's giving an authentic, genuine performance, Jake Lloyd, and they're locking eyes, they're in a real set with real props and a real kind of setting, a
real Jar
dinner,
Jar.
a real Ahmed Best, and like they're at a familiar situation. They're having dinner with a stranger, and he's asking him questions, and he's curious, like a kid is.
I still think it's...
I think it's the
acted.
best scene of the movie in terms of performance.
I still think it's awfully acted. It might be the best scene in performance.
It's by far the best scene of performance.
One of them. It's
awful. Not that bad. They go to Coruscant. This movie
maybe 7-year-olds have this kind of
destroys the mystery of the Jedi. They live in the middle of a city in this ivory tower with like a boardroom full of them in a circle. Like these are meant to be the ancient wise monks of the galaxy, and they live in like this sterile, gross environment that is just so disconnected. It looks like any other building on this planet.
Oh yeah, Coruscant sucks because
Coruscant sucks.
You don't know which building is important because there's so many buildings. It's like
And I get so
I guess the
offended.
mastering building is important.
Not offended, but I get so annoyed that in the next one they try to make it look like Blade Runner, and I'm like, they've done none of the groundwork to earn that kind of aesthetic. Anyway, they finally leave Coruscant after 20
don't
minutes.
take Anakin, the Jedi, to be trained.
Yeah, they refuse, and Qui-Gon's like, "Fuck you! I'll
then
train
they
you
also,
myself."
They also refuse to go to Naboo to assist on
Yes.
the battle. So what does Qui-Gon do? He trains the kid and he
Takes
goes
the
to
kid
Naboo.
with him.
And he takes the kid with him.
I will take you to the active war zone so you can learn my skills.
Yeah, and then they go to Naboo without a plan.
No,
they
no plan.
discuss
They decide on the way that
On
they're
the
going to
way.
ask the Gungans for help.
Yes, I think the Queen knew already.
No, she like asks Jar Jar while they're traveling.
You know, and what I'm saying is that she already
Where is
had
the
a plan.
Galactic Army?
She already had a plan.
Where are
on-
the clones?
That's
still
not.
being
That's
cloned?
not. That's not yet. But
I
like,
know.
I think she already had a plan to ask the Gungans, right?
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking.
which is the reason she's kept Jar Jar with them.
But
the
it's
whole
still
time.
weird that she has to ask Jar Jar on the way, so she didn't like the Jedi didn't know the plan on the
No.
until they were on the way.
I had no idea.
They had no idea.
Did you know, like, you're just sending two of us? I mean, I think
after putting the droids, it'll be pretty easy for two of them. I don't
but
know why
like,
they
there's a
just didn't
Sith
run
Lord.
through
There's
it.
a Sith Lord. Like, really? Like, Kiadi Mundi, Kit Fisto, none of these guys can lend a hand? Mace Windu is really that busy? Teaching kids how to, like, read a screen? Like, really?
Mace
The Jedi
Windu.
suck in this movie. This movie really destroys the Jedi for me. Like, my third favorite film of all time, my favorite animated film is Princess Mononoke. And you've seen Mononoke, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my favorite thing about Mononoke in the first setup is that the tragedy of it is that Ashitaka, who is cursed by this demon, who is going to take his life, needs to leave his tribe, and he's meant to be their next leader. He's meant to be the man who brings their tribe into the modern world, and he has to leave. He has to cut his hair and leave his tribe's people, never to return, and abandon them, and their bloodline is going to die out. The thing that really sucks about this trilogy is that it makes the Jedi look like idiots.
It's boring.
They're boring.
You don't know what they are.
The one thing they shouldn't be is boring. The
Yeah.
one thing this film should not be is boring.
Well,
and it is.
here's the thing: is that in Empire,
Yes.
when they say, "I'll go and meet Yoda," I think they
He's
say,
a great Jedi master.
yeah. You think of it, and you're like, "Oh, Jedi master."
Yeah, it's the genius
And
of that.
he's
intro.
Yoda. He's just so small. But like, you think of the word in Jedi master.
Yes.
Like, so you get your idea of like what they used to be, and then you go in there, and it's just a bunch of guys. No. I mean,
You mean in this film, yeah.
In this film, you get
They're just a
you
bunch of
get
guys
there,
sitting in chairs.
They just sit in chairs. They're not doing
They're not
anything.
meditating. They're not practicing their skills.
Yeah, like
Like, they should be-
It's really funny. The interaction to Yoda, the Qui-Gon,
You know that scene in
Samuel
Throne
L.
of
Jackson.
Blood?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
What's his interaction? What's his name? Mace Windu.
Mace Windu.
Like these are important characters, and they're just sitting there.
They're so important.
Hey, guys.
They're barely
How you
in the film and barely in the sequels. You know that scene
What
in
else?
Throne of Blood where Macbeth, played by Toshiro Mifune, finds the shaman who's like in the middle of the forest, and he's like spinning that weird wheel? Or like in Game of Thrones when they find Maggie and she tells Cersei Lannister the future of her children and all that stuff. The Jedi should live in like the middle of a forest.
Nah, I disagree.
In like a temple. You know Jedi Academy? Where like Luke's training the Jedi? It's perfect.
I disagree.
Okay, that's fair.
I think Jedi is. It is kind of weird they live in the city.
Tell us about the battle.
So the fight against the Gungans.
Yes.
There's the coolest sequence.
Oh, when the
All of
battle
the
droids
prequels.
unfold, it's so
When the
good.
battle droids are deployed,
That alone is why this
the
movie is
sound
better than Attack of the
effects,
Clones and
the
Revenge.
visuals is just great.
Yeah,
It's
there
all
is
CG.
there is no tension at all in that battle.
There's no tension in the battle,
Or in any of them.
but like what's cool is that what my reasoning why I think the droids would have been a fine enemy to fight
Yeah.
in a well-written
Yeah.
series is that they are such a huge army.
Yes.
They are easily manufactured,
Just keep pumping it
and
out.
they can just keep popping them out.
It's like the final battle of iRobot, where people are like using Molotov cocktails and sticks to beat these machines. Like, do something.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's really cool. But, like, that ending, that climax, half of it is good. That Darth Maul fight is kind of cool. The sound effects, the music, it's really good.
Yeah.
everything with Anakin in space, it's
very, very common. Like we were joking when we were watching about how 90% of the way that the plot of this movie is resolved is purely by accident. Like Anakin accidentally falls in the ship, accidentally flies up to the enemy ship, accidentally spins into the inside of the ship, accidentally fires the missiles that blow up the middle of the ship.
Yeah, he didn't know that.
He didn't know that, yeah.
He didn't know that button was going to shoot missiles.
Yeah.
Before that point, he was using just lasers.
Jar Jar accidentally destroys a bunch of droids. It's really silly. There's so many ways to do this movie better, but I think the biggest thing that sums it up for me is that this movie just fails to capture the sense of fantasy and adventure that the original Star Wars films have. Like, the reason that we feel good when Luke destroys the Death Star is partly because he's finally accepted the higher calling of listening to the Force. It's not just about the fact that he blows up the Death Star, it's the fact that Obi-Wan communicates to him from beyond the grave, and Luke trusts his feelings and he succeeds. Like, it's as much a spiritual kind of conclusion. Same with Empire. Empire is about a spiritual defeat. It's about love being shattered. Return of the Jedi is about Luke redeeming his father. Like, all of these films used to have a deep spiritual undercurrent, which I think is why Rogue One, which is my favorite of the Disney Star Wars films, is my favorite. Because Rogue One also has a spiritual undercurrent to it that feels like a part of Star Wars. Anyway,
I care.
We'll get to Rogue One.
I care if the movie's good or not.
We'll get to Rogue One in 4 weeks, and it'll be really fun to talk about with you. Wrapping up, Qui-Gon Jinn is killed by Darth Maul.
Yeah, that happens.
It could have been really good.
It could have been like in Lord of the Rings when Boromir dies.
Which is an amazing scene.
But the worst part is that Qui-Gon Jinn, the last thing he says, it's something about Anakin.
Oh, we haven't talked about this. So my biggest gripe with Hollywood movies, and it's weird that this and The Matrix come out the same year. There is an obsession around the late 90s to the early 2000s, and it sort of has completely stopped in 2010 onwards, of a character who is the lead of your narrative being the chosen one. To me, it's the worst thing about Harry Potter. I think it's one of the worst things about The Matrix, even though The Matrix tries to subvert it.
But The Matrix
subverts it.
That's the point of the film.
I know.
It's not something they pull out of nowhere. Like in
The Matrix sets it up better than any of these other films. I think it falls apart in the second and third film.
Yeah, of course. But at the point of the end is that he's like, that's the point of the end.
Yeah, Qui-Gon's last words to Obi-Wan are, "You must train the boy. He is the chosen one." And as we'll see in the second and third film, this narrative really, really impairs the power of these films. Has it improved in some ways in your mind, or has it degraded?
I don't know. I think after watching a couple of the recent ones, I thought prequels were a bit better. I don't think they do some things better.
Like what? What would be one thing you say?
I think the Darth Maul fight is a lot better than any fight.
No.
In the recent ones?
No, I would give the Rey fight against Kylo in
the Rey fight against
I would give the Vader murder scene in Rogue One.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, fine. I'm comparing all that to The Last Jedi,
okay.
specifically. Yeah, but no, they're really, like, Phantom Menace is really bad.
Thank you for listening. Please feel free to subscribe for future episodes. We'll probably be putting up social media links if you want to follow other news. And yeah, we will see you next time, and may the Force be with you.
Don't say that.